Hello, welcome back to my channel that I haven't posted on in a long time because I don't have very positive updates other than this one that I guess I will give you first. My first positive update is that I have a baby Angora ferret named Yui. I haven't even done like an official introduction to her or anything because I post a lot more on TikTok like I always say, but yeah, long story short is this is Yui. She is a 4-month-old Angora ferret. She is from a private breeder and she is a psycho, but I will make like her own little video explaining everything about her in a little bit, but I wanted to just give the not so happy updates and then kind of transition into the positive ones. But like I said, I haven't made like an actual official YouTube video in a long time. The two sad updates are that Peina passed and so did Blossom. So Blossom passed in April of 2025, so a couple months ago, and Peina passed on the last day of May 31st. So Blossom passed from splenic lymphoma. I only had her for a year and her spleen was just growing, becoming massive, which has happened in like numerous of my ferrets. If you've seen all my videos on this channel before, like I lost Mitiku to splenic lymphoma and I got his spleen removed and it did nothing. And so Blossom kind of followed like the same pattern, so I went the palliative route instead. So I just gave her prednisolone, kept her comfortable, gave her turkey tail mushroom supplements, all that stuff that I usually do when they have cancer. And yeah, her spleen was just absolutely massive. It was really like mottled and ugly looking according to my vet on her ultrasound. And yeah, so, and it was like, I forget if it was the right or left side, but her lymph nodes along one side of her body were completely enlarged, and it just followed the typical lymphoma pattern. So she passed at the end of April in 2025. I only had her for a year. My vet thinks that she was probably around 5, 6, or 7. We really don't know based on her teeth, but it's so hard to say. When I adopted her, like I said, somebody found her on a nature trail, hiking trail in South Jersey, and then I rescued her last year when somebody contacted me. So that's Blossom's story, but unfortunately she passed, which is awful. And then a month and a half later, Peina passed. Peina, it's been a couple months obviously, but I still am sick to my stomach talking about it. Oh look, Yui's biting my finger. Ouch, Yui, because she was 1 month away from her 9th birthday, which I know is like so incredible, but it sucks. So Peina dodged all of the typical ferret diseases by some miracle. She did not have lymphoma, she did not have adrenal, or we think she might have developed adrenal later on. I honestly wasn't too sure. She would get like these oily, scabby like patches on her, kind of like by her butt back, but so she got the adrenal implant anyway, but whether she actually had adrenal or not, I don't really know. She did not have lymphoma. She didn't have like any of the typical ailments. She passed from kidney failure, so she was just really old and her kidneys just started to fail her. But yeah, she was almost 9, and so that sucks a lot, and I've been very, very sad about it because Peina was one of my original 4. It was Nar, Jinx, Kitty Doe, and Peina, so losing Peina was like so sad for me. But I feel better knowing that she had an incredible life, like talking to a ton of people, and just the fact that a Marshall's ferret made it to almost 9 years old is pretty amazing. So that's the sad updates. And then the positive update is that I now have Yui, which I don't know why there's a reflection right here, that's weird. But yeah, I have Yui. She is a psycho, but I love her so much. She is so smart. I will make like a whole video about Angora ferrets and just the fact that I got her from a breeder, how I stumbled upon her and all of that stuff. Chihiro is also kind of a bad update too, or okay-ish bad update, which I will probably make another video on too, because I want to start getting back into like making informative videos on here because there's such limited information about ferrets on the internet in general, and especially like a lot of the things that mine deal with, because not many people take their ferrets to the vet and go through like intensive treatments because they just don't care, or like people see them as not as important as cats or dogs, whatever. But Chihiro, she's been like kind of breathing heavy the past couple months, not super heavy, like her resting rate isn't that bad, but I just noticed when I pick her up she would kind of make these like grunting noises, and I brought her to my vet a couple months ago because her spleen was big, and that's always like my fear with like Blossom, Mitiku. A lot of them have had the enlarged spleens that turned out to be lymphoma, but her spleen looked fine. It was very smooth and like typical symmetrical looking. So we didn't think that was anything of an issue. But she's still been doing kind of like the weird breathing. So I brought her in again and we did chest x-rays, and it looks like she has a mediastinal mass in front of her heart. So they think it's like in her thymus gland. It's either a thymoma, which is a benign mass, but it's still a mass that's like pressing on her lungs and her heart, or thymic lymphoma. Based on my own research, because my vet isn't really too sure unless we do like the fine needle aspirate or take her for a biopsy and all these things, I think it's a thymoma because she's 6, or she'll be 6 next week. But apparently with thymomas, they are slower growing, and the symptoms are just more gradual, and they're pretty stable other than like the breathing, because the mass is like compressing those organs and her lungs. But the thymic lymphoma happens much quicker. It usually spreads. It's usually like the symptoms are much faster, and the fact that she's been doing this for months, and thymic lymphoma is more common in ferrets that are younger, between like a couple months old to 4 years old, and Chi-Chi's almost 6, so a lot of the symptoms and everything line up more with the thymoma, which in theory is the better diagnosis, because if I were to get surgery, it's like a curative surgery if it's a successful surgery. The problem is, because it's on top of her heart, or like above her heart, in front of her heart, it is a much riskier surgery, because obviously her heart is right there and her lungs and major important organs are there. So surgery is very risky, but it's one of the only tumors in ferrets that is 100% curative if they can get it with clean margins. So I don't really know what I'm going to do about that. If it's lymphoma, then we'll probably just do the palliative route. I honestly might try chemo if it's lymphoma. I've never done any of the chemo things before, because a lot of them, it's been fairly progressed. And then with NAR, like, he just wasn't really, I wasn't super familiar with everything, and so I just did prednisolone, and I like brought him to every specialist really, but nobody was really willing to do all that crazy stuff for him. But I know so much more now than I did a couple years ago. NAR was my first ferret, and now I just am so much more educated. So I think I'm still going to bring her to a specialist. I've like spent so much money on trying to save them, like Midiku obviously, and I spent thousands on him to get his spleen removed, and nothing positive came from that. But with Chi-Chi, I feel like it's different. His symptoms, like, he was very, very poor already when I brought him in. Chi-Chi's like her great, happy, normal self, which is also why I think it's a thymoma, because her symptoms are so mild despite this going on for months. So yeah, it's much slower growing. I'm hoping it's this thymoma, but I still don't know really what to do treatment wise. You can also do radiation, but that causes damage, or it can, I shouldn't say it will. It can cause damage to the lungs and heart, but it could also be like totally fine and shrink the tumor, but it's not curative. So I'm just waiting for the specialist to call me back and see what we want to do. But yeah, those are my updates. I swore off of doing all like the crazy extreme measures, but with Chi-Chi, it just like feels different, because she's seemingly so healthy otherwise. Like, it's just the stupid mass. It's similar to my dog, who has a soft tissue sarcoma on the outside, but she has like a bunch of other ailments, so we never got her that surgery, and she's lived like almost 3 years now with this stupid tumor, because they're locally invasive, but they don't like spread to organs. So she's been fine with it because it's external, but Chi-Chi, hers is right basically in front of her heart, so even if it's a benign tumor, it's going to keep growing and then like compress all the important organs. So that's the dilemma that I'm currently in. So not really positive updates. I lost Peina and I lost Blossom, but I now have a baby Angora ferret named Yui that I haven't even introduced on this channel yet because I haven't been making videos. But yeah, Yui, she's the best. I love her. She's incredibly smart. I have never ever encountered anything like a breeder ferret before, but she will get her own intro video. So for now, those are my updates, and I will keep everybody that watches my videos updated on Chewy. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where I post more updates. And yep, those are my updates so far.